Speed back with another repair video. Today we're going to be replacing the heating coil on this Kenmore 90 series dryer. I know it's not a car, but I thought I'd just throw this in for you because it wasn't too difficult and it might help you out if you have one of these dryers. It's also been a very dependable dryer, so I couldn't stand to throw it out just yet. So let's get started. So the first thing we're going to have to do here is remove this lower panel, which is actually just held on by 2 clips. To do this, we're going to need a smaller flathead screwdriver, something that you can get in to this area. So make sure your flathead screwdriver isn't too large, and it's really hard to see because of the angle on this, but there's a small clip right here, and you really have to go very high and flush with the top of that clip. So it's kind of hard to explain, but you have to go in and then depress it down and then pull forward to release it. And so you can see it's come loose here. It's kind of hard to see that. But that side is now loose, and now we're going to the other side. And we're gonna push down on that, and I kind of slip here, but get your screwdriver in there and just push down, and then the whole door should easily open up. And then it's just held down with 2 small clips on the bottom, which you basically just lift the door out and it's out of your way, just like that. So all you really needed was this small flathead screwdriver to gain access. As you can see, we've got 17 years of lint built up here, so that'll all have to be removed. And here is the housing for the heating coil right here. And we have a small bolt that's holding this cover on, and we'll have to remove that bolt right there. It's kind of hard to see. There you go. This will have to be removed so we can gain access to the heating coil itself, and this little door just comes right off. So we'll get started on that next. We'll also have to gain access to these 2 wires right here, which is very simple because they're right in front, and this is the power supply to the coil itself. We have a negative and a positive, and all we have to do is unclip those 2. So now you have clear access to the coil itself. I was fortunate enough to save my manual, and it actually had a parts guide inside for pretty much everything that needs to be replaced. So I was able to find the exact part number and go online and do some shopping. I would recommend Amazon because it's much cheaper than going to Kenmore or Sears website itself. And there is your part number for my particular dryer. And you'll probably have to do some research online to put in your exact model number if you don't have the parts guide. But here is the exact match, and I got a pretty good deal on Amazon, like I said, so I will link that down below. If this dryer is exactly like yours, you can use that part. So now we have to do is clean all this up and remove the coil itself. But before you go any further, let's unplug the dryer because getting shocked with 220 volts is never fun and it could really seriously hurt you. So now we can really get to work on removing the coil. So now all we have to do is remove the power source from the heating coil itself. And we talked about this earlier. There's a negative and positive wire that has to be removed. So what you want to do is just take your time and be careful not to damage the wire or any of the components surrounding the area. Now that you've removed the power supply, we can unbolt the coil. The good news is it's just one small screw or bolt holding in the whole assembly. But it'll be much easier for me to show you where it is on this new coil itself right here. As you can see this small hole, this is the only bolt that holds the whole assembly into the housing. Once we remove this, the whole coil will just slide forward and out of the housing. Here's a better angle, and the screw or bolt is facing towards us right now. If you're looking at it from this direction, the bolt will be facing towards us. And we're going to need a small ratchet and with an extended socket to access this. And here is the bolt. I've already removed it, but this is basically how it's oriented in the coil itself. So once we remove that, the whole housing will be ready to remove. To remove the coil, you're really going to need both hands because I found that my coil wasn't quite fused, but it was almost welded in there from all the heat over the years, and I had to sandwich my hands to actually break it loose from the housing. But once you break it loose, then it'll slide out relatively easy. There's just one little area that you'll have to maneuver around right here. You'll just have to slightly bend this connection to get it around this little part of the dryer. That wasn't too hard. I just took my time so I didn't damage anything. Once I got it around there, it slid all the way out. Once you've got the coil out of the housing, we need to thoroughly clean the inside and make sure we remove all lint and dust. The coil produces quite a bit of heat, as you'll see soon, and we want to eliminate any source of combustion. So take your time and thoroughly clean this housing and try to get it back to the brand new specs. Now I'm just doing a side-by-side comparison to see what kind of toll 17 years of hard, dependable use has done to my coil. And as you can see, the actual coil housing or the platform that the coil sits on has done very well with just very little discoloring. Only the coil itself has shown damage, so I'd have to say that this part held up quite well. I did also want to mention that not only do you want to clean the inside of the housing, but you want to thoroughly clean the very top of the housing, because I also found quite a bit of dust accumulated on top of the housing and some more burning of the dust on top of the housing. So we want to make sure this whole area is thoroughly clean and vacuumed out, because we do not want any lint fires with this brand new coil being placed in. Now that you've placed the new coil back in the housing, once again we've come to this little area where we have to get around. Obviously we do not want to damage the coil when placing it back in, so take your time and just slowly bend it around this corner. It wasn't that difficult, but you do need to take your time. Once the coil has been securely pressed into the housing, I found that it was much easier to hand start this small little bolt in with my fingers before I use the ratchet. So take your time and hand start the bolt, then finish it up with the ratchet. Once that's complete, you can reattach the power supply to the coil. Remember, the negative wire goes on the top prong and the positive wire goes on the lower prong. Now all you have to do is plug in the machine and turn the dryer to high. It should only take a few seconds for the coil to heat up if it's installed properly. And as you can see here, we're glowing red hot. So you can also see the importance of thoroughly cleaning the housing. This is definitely a fire hazard if you were to leave lint in this area. So now all you have to do is replace the front shield back on the coil housing and then replace the bottom of the dryer door back on. At this point, I would probably wash the coil for a few minutes to make sure nothing sparks or nothing unusual happens. Once you're satisfied, you're good to go. Once again, thanks for watching. I hope this video helped you out. If it did, please like and subscribe. And Z-Speed will be back soon with another video. Until then, keep on repairing. You'll save lots of money.